Testing. Testing, testing. Can you hear online? Testing, testing. Deshelle has entered the building. Testing, testing, testing. Vamos a tener que dar la clase en español también. Vamos a aprender de la bolsa de valores hoy. Can you hear me? Online? Are we live? Oh. Oh, okay. All right. Wait, is it not working? I think it's working. I hear my voice echoing. Testing, testing. Do you need those lights on the side? Or is this good enough? Testing, testing. It's not working? I don't know why I feel like it's working. I hear my voice echoing. Yeah, I think so. I don't. Wait, hold on. Let me turn it off. Testing, testing. But you could hear it on the live stream, right? I mean, that's what's more important. I mean, you're standing all the way in the back and you could hear me, so. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. No? Adna, can you hear me? But you just hear my voice, you don't hear the speaker. Testing, testing. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. But you changed things. Is it still working? Oh, is it just that they're not on, or? Testing, testing. Testing, testing, testing. The no, no es esa. Y esto. Oh. All right, then we should just start. Because others might be just watching online. Yeah, but is one of them you? Are we good? Okay, are we all ready? We're all quiet today, or concentrating on other things. We good? Okay, all right, so here we're going to pick off where we left off last week. I don't want to review too much because it is online. You can just go online and review the whole thing. For anyone just joining or maybe listening to this one or is going to go back to the previous one, just know that we let the camera run through the breaks. So while it says, I think, like 4 hours, it's actually less because there are like 3 long breaks in there of I don't know, 20 minutes or so. So you can just fast forward through the breaks. So the section on investing, I'm going to try and teach you as much as I can in a short period of time about stocks and the stock market. I hope you all realize that you can't become expert investors with a 1-hour course. That's just not realistic. What my intention is today is to just take away the fear of the stock market and take away the mystery, because a lot of people have money, and A lot of people are actually pretty good with budgeting and a lot of the things we talked about. But then when it comes to the stock market, they just don't want to participate for whatever reason. They don't trust it, they don't understand it, they just don't have the time. So there's a lot of reasons. And so again, I'm just repeating myself. The intention today is just to take away the mystery of the stock market. We did cover this slide last week, so I'm not going to go backwards, but I will just at least review just this slide again. 401ks, 403bs, 457b, I think. Those are all just different types of accounts. You typically put your money in these accounts, and then once the money is in these accounts, you have to then, there's a second step. The second step is to log into these accounts and then buy something. If you, and this goes for almost all of these, not mutual funds and ETFs, but let's just concentrate on individual brokerage accounts. Again, it's just like a bank account. The only thing is you open it with a brokerage house, like Schwab or Fidelity or I don't know the other, E-Trade, I think. I don't know how many others there are now, because a lot of them merge throughout the years, and I forget which ones are still active. But it's not that hard to find a brokerage company and just open up an account. Last week I told you all that when my son was like, I don't know, 20 years old, I explained brokerage accounts to him and to my nephew, and in about half an hour they already had an account open. So it's that simple. Anyone who's computer savvy, you just log on to a computer, you go to the website. I don't know this for sure, but I think it might be like fidelity.com. You say open account, they ask you for a bunch of information. You'll need, I think, your social security number. That's a perfectly normal thing to ask, because when you invest in stocks and stuff, I mean, they have to give you 1099s and tax statements and things like that. So it's not like a scam or anything. They really do need your social security number. You'll need your checking account number, because somehow you got to transfer the money into your brokerage account. 401ks are a little different, because that's done through your job. And we don't need to go through that here, because all I'll say is if you have it available at work, you definitely want to take advantage of it. And I think we said this last week, I don't remember, but one of the greatest investments you can make is a 401k or 403b when they match, when the company matches. So if they say we match up to 3%, well, then you should definitely be contributing that 3%. It's like free money. You're getting 100% interest when you put the amount of money that your company is willing to match. So I think that was just review. So we discussed Roth IRAs and IRAs and tax deferred. Either you're taxed later, or you're taxed up front, or you're not taxed at all with health savings accounts. So we discussed all that. But now let's just talk about just individual stocks, just what in the world is a stock. And again, the intention today is to take the mystery away and then answer any questions and try to get you all interested in stocks. Go to the next slide. Okay, so here are some concepts. You hear these terms thrown out maybe when you watch the news at night, or just on the radio, or just when you're listening to a conversation I'm having with some of you. So I just want to take the mystery away. So one is a shareholder. When a company goes public, which basically just means that they are now listed on the stock exchange, on some stock exchange. And that means that suddenly, from one day to the next, once they're listed, millions of people can go in and buy their stock. And when you buy stock, that simply, forgive me. Let me just silence this. Oh, forgot to turn my phone off. I'm just turning it off because I don't have time to silence it now. Okay, so when you buy stock in a company, in this example here on the slide, I just put IBM and Google. It was just two random companies I put on there because they're recognizable names. You are now a shareholder of IBM. So you buy IBM stock, you're now one of the shareholders. So that's all that means. You own part of the company. When IBM became a public company, at that point in time, don't ask me how this works. There's a whole bunch of lawyers that get together and decide all this stuff. They say this is how many shares there are going to be. And just for the sake of this example, there's millions of shares, but let's just say they decide there's going to be 1,000 shares, and we're going public, and this is the 1,000 shares. So that means that you can buy 5 shares, you can buy 5, you can buy 10, you can buy 30, and so we all own part of the company. So now just imagine that same example, but with millions of shares and millions of people, and everybody owns a little part of the company. So that's all it means to be a shareholder. That's not rocket science, it's not that complicated. You just own part of the company. So now, when you own part of the company, well, that means that whatever profit the company has, some of that profit is yours. So, again, this is typically in billions of dollars, but just for the sake of this example, I'm just going to try and make it simple. Let's say at the end of the year, IBM made in profit, after expenses and all that stuff, this is how much money they had left over. That might be $1,000. So now that $1,000 that they made, they can do several things with it. They could either say, okay, well, we're going to divide it by the number of shareholders and give everybody a little bit of their money. That is typically in the form of a dividend, and I think there's another slide later on dividends, but I'll just mention it now. So when you get a dividend, if you own 5 shares and you own 10 shares and you own 15 shares, if they make 1,000, you take the 1,000, divide it by the number of shareholders, and like you might get, $5, you might get $5, you might get $15, and that's the way it works. It's just a dividend. They're making money and they're giving money out to the shareholders. It's that simple. Now, the other thing they can do with that money is they can just invest it right back in the company. So you're not getting any dividend, but the company now has more money, and they can use that money for advertising, for research, to grow the business. So that's what happens with shareholders and how much money a company makes. Now, gains and losses, if you buy Google for, if you put $1,000 into Google, and at the end of the year it's worth $2,000. Let me just test your knowledge, see how savvy you all are. Do you pay taxes on $2,000? Do you pay taxes on $1,000 because that's how much you made? Exactly. I know people online can't hear that, but the answer was you only pay taxes when you sell. If you don't sell, well, then you're not paying anything. You just own a stock that's now worth $2,000 and it's in your account. You pay no taxes. It has nothing to do with your tax return at the end of the year. You just made $1,000 and now you have $2,000 in your account. That's it. Now, on the other hand, if you, let's say it's the end of the year and you do sell Google for $2,000. Now, this is important too when you all become expert investors and you start making a lot of money. You have to remember, if you put $1,000 in and you get $1,000 out and you sell, well, you made $1,000. You know, you put $1,000 in, you got $2,000 out, so which means that you made $1,000. If you sell, now you have to pay taxes on $1,000. So I don't know what the tax rate is for if it's short-term capital gains. I think it's 15% or something, 20%, and if it's long-term, it's 15%. That's not even that important. The important thing is that just know that depending on when you sell it, whether it's more than a year or not, you might have to pay 15% on that money. So that would be $150. So when you do your tax return at the end of the year, just imagine if you make a lot of money, well, you're going to owe a lot of money in taxes too. So you have to have cash available next year to pay taxes on the money that you made. That's only for brokerage, individual brokerage accounts. Now, here's let me test your knowledge again, and I'll give whatever answers you give. I'll say it so people online can hear it, because we don't have the mic. Oh, you have the mic. Oh, okay. So now, let's say I put $1,000 into Google. At the end of the year, I sell it for $2,000. How much money am I not paying in taxes, but what amount of that money is taxable? Anybody? I put $1,000 in, I get $2,000 out. What amount of that money is taxable? We have an answer.
Oh, $1,000.
Yes, $1,000. Okay, now here's the same question again, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. You put $1,000 into Google. You sell it for $2,000 a year later, but that money, that transaction, that was in an IRA, the individual retirement account. So you're in an IRA now, not in your regular brokerage, not in your individual brokerage account, but you're in an IRA that you opened up. So you went on to Fidelity, you opened up an IRA, you put $1,000 in there, you bought Google, and then a year later you sell it for $2,000. So you put $1,000 in, sold it for $2,000. I'm testing your knowledge of last week. How much money do you pay in taxes at the end of the year? I see one right answer. Go ahead, say it. Say it out loud. $0. Why do you pay $0? Exactly, because it's in an IRA account, and you're paying that when you're my age and you take it out. You pay that 30 years later when you take the money out. You don't pay as the years go on. You can buy and sell all you want, and you're not paying a penny in taxes until you're, 60 years old and you start taking the money out. Okay. Now, you open up a Roth IRA. You put $1,000 into your Roth IRA. You go on to, Schwab. You open an account. You say they say what type of account. You say Roth IRA. You click the button. So now you have an account with nothing in it. You put $1,000 into it from your bank account. You buy Google. You sell it a year later for $2,000. How much money do you pay in taxes at that point in time? It's a Roth IRA.
No, you pay the beginning before, but then I don't know how much percent it is.
No. So at this point in time, when you sell,
Yeah.
not in the beginning,
Yeah.
when you sell, at this point in time, how much money is taxable?
All of it? I don't know.
Well, let me see if Miguel, how much money is taxable in your Roth IRA when you sell it? None.
Oh.
None of that money is taxed. And the reason is that in the beginning, when you first put that money in, that was just money from your bank account that you made from your job. That money was already taxed by your job. You don't need to pay taxes on that again. That's the beauty of the Roth IRA. So you put 1,000 in, you take 2,000 out, you pay absolutely nothing in taxes. And not only that, but 30 years later, when you take it out, you don't pay taxes then either. As long as you take it out after you're 59 and a half, you don't pay anything. So that's the Roth IRA. Okay, the last point I already stated, you can either, the profit from a company can either be invested back in the company or distributed to you as dividends. Okay, so now here's another quick test. You have a Roth IRA. You open it up. You put $1,000 into there, right? And at the end of the year, you didn't make that much money, but they gave you $50 in dividends. So now you have $1,050 in your account. Yeah, $1,000 worth of stock and $50 in cash. How much of that cash is taxed in a Roth IRA? I see one right answer. Go ahead, say it. Say it loud. Nothing. It's not taxed. It's a Roth IRA. You will never pay taxes on that money again as long as you take it out after 59 and a half. Just to show how old I am, I could actually take money out of my Roth IRA now because I'm older than 59 and a half. So I can take money out. It's not tax. It's just money that I made throughout the years, and I pay no more taxes on it. Now, let's say you open up an IRA and you put $1,000 into it. You get $50 in dividends at the end of the year. So maybe the stock went up $100, so maybe it's worth $1,100, but you got an additional $50 in interest in an IRA. At the end of the year, how much taxes are you paying? You don't pay anything. You pay nothing in taxes. Now, let's say you have just your regular individual brokerage account. This is not an IRA, it's not a 401k, it's nothing like that. It's just like your account that's a taxable account. You open it up. It can be in the same site. I use Fidelity. I don't know, I like Fidelity. I don't get any money from Fidelity or anything like that, but it's just what I use. And I like their website. And so you go into your individual brokerage account. You put $1,000 in. At the end of the year, the stock really doesn't go up that much. In fact, let's say the stock goes down. So the $1,000 of that stock is now worth $900. But they gave you $50 in dividends. This is a regular brokerage account. How much of that money is taxed? Anybody? Get the wrong answer. Go ahead, say something. Exactly. Nelson got it right. Nelson gets the star. We're going to put a little star up here on the board. $50 is taxed. The $900, that you haven't sold anything. So nothing gets taxed. It's not, you don't get a benefit because you lost money, nothing. It's just like you haven't sold anything. It's just, this is how much the stock is worth. But the $50 you made, that $50 is in your account. You can take it out and go buy lunch, or you can leave it in there and invest in other things. Like, that's your money. But because it's not a tax-deferred account, you have to pay taxes on that $50. Yeah.
So just to be clear,
Is that on?
yeah,
Oh.
in a Roth IRA and in an IRA, you do not get taxed on dividends. But in a brokerage account, you do?
Yes. I mean, I don't want to confuse people, but in an IRA, let's say you're 60 years old, you still won't get taxed if you're buying, selling, and all that. But if you say, oh, you know what, I'm going to take $1,000 out, do you get taxed? Yes. At that point, in a regular IRA, you get taxed when you take the money out, no matter what. I don't care what you take out back then. If you're 60 years old, and you say, okay, I'm going to start taking money out of my IRA, well, anything that you take out, it doesn't matter if it went up, down, dividends, whatever, any money that you take out now, well, it's taxed because you never got taxed on that money. You weren't taxed 30 years ago. So now they're saying, no, you got to pay us now. Now you pay the taxes. But I just want to stress this. That's still one of the best ways to make money, because while you are paying taxes at the end, you made a lot of money over a 30-year period. And over that 30-year period, nothing was taken out. You were never taxed on that money. So that you're allowing that money to grow for you instead of giving it to the government. I mean, not that this isn't an anti-government speech or anything like that. I'm just saying you take advantage of the law that says, no, there's a 401k, 403b, 457b, I forget the exact names, IRA, anything that's tax deferred, you're not paying taxes now. So it comes right out of your paycheck, and you don't pay taxes on it. And that money grows over 30 years. Okay, so that's, I don't know if I can come up with another quick test. Okay, you open up an account. It's an IRA. It's a regular IRA. You put $1,000 into it. 2 years pass by. I'm sorry. You put $1,000 into it. It's a regular IRA. Now you're 61 years old. And that money that you put in grew to $10,000. Now you're 61 years old, and you say, you know what? I need to buy a barbecue grill. So you take out, I don't know how much they cost, $2,000. How much of that money is taxed?
I'd say all of it.
What do you mean, all of it?
Like whatever money that you took out is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. You were both right. So you take the $2,000 out. At this point, you're 60-something, you're retired. Me not, but it doesn't matter. You're taking the money out, and they're going to tax you. They're going to tax the $2,000, whatever your tax rate at that point in time. You put $1,000 into a Roth IRA. You wait the 30 years, and that's worth, I don't know, $15,000 now. You take $2,000 out to buy that grill. How much of that money is taxed?
0.
None. So you get the point. So I understand. I know that you understand Roth IRAs, individual brokerage accounts. Now here's an interesting thing, because we talk about tax deferred. If you got a regular brokerage account, this is interesting. Is that tax deferred, a regular brokerage account, or is it not? Now this is a trick question. I see some heads saying no. So that's partially true. So, and I'm going to give you the example. You go into an individual brokerage account, and you're definitely taxed. So that is the right answer, yeah, right? You are taxed. But think about this. If I buy Amazon, I put $1,000 into Amazon. If I don't sell it next year, how much money am I paying in taxes on Amazon? None. If I don't sell it the following year, how much money am I paying in taxes? If I don't sell it for 15 years and the stock goes from 1,000 to 10,000, how much am I paying in taxes? So you see how if you sell it, you do pay a lot of taxes. But you see how that, in a way, is tax deferred too, because you're not paying taxes until you sell. So in a way, that can kind of be tax deferred. Okay, go to the next slide. All right, so again, I don't want you to think you're going to become expert investors or anything like that. The point here is just to take the mystery away. You see this stuff, even if you don't understand it now, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I've heard that before. I know more or less what it means, and it's just taking the mystery away of the stock market. That's all we're doing. So, in this example that I put up there, company XYZ is priced at $20 a share. So remember, we say you're shareholders. So you can buy 1 share, you can buy 100 shares, you can buy however many shares you want. So if company XYZ, fill in the blank, it could be any company, is priced at $20 a share, if I buy 100 shares, it would take $2,000 because it's $20 a share. I want to buy 100, so it's 20 times 100, so it's $2,000. Now on here I put again savings in an exclamation point. The reason I put this there is I know I'm stating the obvious, but you do realize that you can't invest $2,000 in anything if you don't have $2,000. I mean, I know that's really obvious, but I want you to think about that, because there are a lot of folks that talk to me and tell me they want to invest in the stock market, and they want to make all these millions in the stock market. And you ask them how much money they have, and they don't have any money. I'm like, well, we have to go backwards to chapter 1 again and go over your budget and have you saving, and you have to know all this stuff just so that you get to the point where you say, look, now I have $2,000 of extra money. In other words, I'm still paying the rent, I'm paying my car loan, I'm paying whatever, but I have an extra $2,000 and I want to put that in the stock market. Okay, well now we can talk. Now you can buy a company $20 a share, and you can buy 100 shares because you have the money. So just remember this. I'm just stating this because today I want to take the mystery out of the stock market, but I don't want you to forget everything we covered last week, because that stuff is more important, because you can't invest if you don't have money, extra money. Okay, so now, in the same example, company XYZ, one year later, two things can happen. The value of that stock might be $23 a share, or, this happens. It happens, it happens a lot in a short period of time. Or the value can be $17 a share. The value of the company can go down. Say, I'm just making this up. I don't want to pick on any one company because this is totally fictional, but say it's a food manufacturer, and they're $20 a share, and they find that there was lead found in one of their factories, and they have to recall millions of products. Well, when the stock market gets that news, investors will say, oh my goodness, here come the lawsuits. They're going to start losing money. So that $20 stock, might be a $17 stock. It might even be a $10 stock when they have bad news like that. So the value of the stocks can go up or down. Now, if it's $20 a share and they report their earnings at the end of the year and they say, you know what, we made a lot more money than we were forecasting. We thought we were going to make $5 on every share that we had, and we really made $6. Well, now investors say, oh, wow, man, they're making even more money than I thought. So then the value of the stock goes up, and that's how it's $23 a share now instead of 20. Now, this is a really easy test, and you should laugh at how easy this test is. So now, if you put $2,000 in, and it was $20 a share, and at the end of the year, it ended up being $23 a share, how much are your shares worth? Yeah, exactly. It's right there on the board. Now your account is worth $2,300. I mean, assuming that's the only stock in your account. So you put $2,000 in, and now it's worth $2,300. You're not selling or anything. How much taxes do you pay in any account? Nothing. You haven't sold anything, so you pay no taxes on anything. So you just have $2,300 in your account. That's it. You buy the stock. You buy 100 shares of the stock at $20 a share. At the end of the year, it's worth $17 a share. How much? How much money do you have? At least, what's the value of that stock in your account? $1,700. Now, and you actually did lose value. You haven't technically lost any money yet because you haven't sold, but you did lose value. Okay, go to the next slide. We covered this a little bit, but I'm just repeating myself again to take the mystery out of all this. You have company XYZ pays a dividend of 60 cents per share. So for every share that you have, you get 60 cents. Typically, dividends are paid quarterly, every quarter. Now, there are some stocks that pay monthly. There are others that pay bi-yearly. There are others that pay yearly. At the end of the year, you just get one dividend, and that's it. But it doesn't matter. Most of them that do pay dividends pay once a quarter. So company XYZ pays a dividend of 60 cents per share. So that's every quarter. They're going to give you 60 cents per share. If you own 100 shares, right? Now, this says 1 year later, but it's not that it's not that this slide is wrong. It's just that when I said 60 cents per share, that was a yearly dividend. And then I kind of switched it to quarterly. I don't know if any of you caught that. But let's say it's a yearly dividend. So it's 60 cents per share. If you have 100 shares, how much money are you going to get at the end of the year? Yeah, you're going to get $60 because it's for every share that you have, you're going to get 60 cents. And if you have 100 shares, well, there's going to be $60 just appears in your account on the day that they pay that dividend. And you're going to go in and you're going to say, oh, look, I made $60 today. It's as simple as that. Don't make it complicated. Dividends is kind of just like getting interest in the bank. At the end of the month, you might get $2 in interest. Dividend, it's just, if it's monthly, quarterly, or yearly, whenever that period is up, they're just going to put the money in your account. That's it. not all stocks pay dividends. If they have what is called growth stocks. So growth stocks, when you start a company, and I'm going to use Amazon, for example. It's just a good example to use. Amazon started, I don't know, 1990 or something like that, and they were a small company, and they were way down here. Just look at my hand for a second. They were worth, I don't know what they were worth, $10 a share. And by the end of the year, they were a successful business, so they made a lot of money, but instead of paying dividends, instead of paying their shareholders dividends, they just put the money, invested the money right back into the company, right? And so they had a lot more money for research, to open up new distribution centers, to hire more people, and so they were able to grow. So Amazon, at that point, was a growth stock. They made a whole lot of money, so the next year, instead of being worth $10 a share, they were worth $20 a share. They doubled, right? Then the following year, they made even more money because they used all that money to open up new warehouses and all that. And then the following year, they did the same thing again. They said, wow, look how much money we made. Let's expand to these states and these places. And so they built more warehouses. And so they took the money that they made and they put it right back into the company. And now we need to hire more people. And we need to hire qualified people and people that know technology and people that are salespeople and people that can create websites. And so, like, that's a growth company. You're not getting any dividends. But the value of your stock keeps going up and up and up and up every year. And so you may have put $1,000 in this year, and 10 years later, that $1,000 is worth $15,000. You made no dividends. You got no extra money in your account, but the value of that stock is $15,000 now. Dividend stocks are a little different. They say, well, we're not going to invest in the company, at least not everything. Everyone invests in their company a little bit, but they're saying, no, you know what, we want to reward our shareholders. And typically that happens when a company has gotten so big that they're just not going to grow anymore. So an example is, let's say Divine goes public with her baking business, and she's just one person, and she has one store, and she says, but I'm going to go public, and at the end of the year, she makes $10,000, and she wants to open up another store. Would she be a growth company, or would she be a dividend company? Yeah, she'd be growth, because she's not going to give you any money, but she's saying, no, I'm going to grow my business, and I'm going to open up another store and open up another store, and the business is growing. Okay, now, let's say I open up, no, I'm sorry, wrong example. Let's take IBM, because I had it on the previous slides. Take IBM. Can IBM really grow that much more if they're already a global company and they exist in every single country in the world, and they're making, I don't know what they make, so if I say the wrong thing, don't judge me, it's just an example. Let's say they're making $100 billion a year. Like, you do realize they're not going to grow that much anymore. So people are saying, well, if you're not going to grow anymore and you're making all this money, well, then you need to start giving us dividends. I mean, you invest to make money, not just to say that the value is going up. So eventually, when you grow so much, you have to start giving out dividends. Otherwise, people are taking off. Or you have to figure out different ways of growing. So those are just different examples of how a company can be a growth stock or a dividend stock. Now, this isn't on the slide, but I do want to just some of you, I just want to get you interested in the stock market. Some of you already know, and you want to learn how to invest in all that. And so here's a little extra information for those who want to learn how to invest. One of the tricks, not tricks, one of the things to consider when you're investing in companies is population. If I have a company, let's just say Pepsi-Cola, and I sell Pepsi products. And let's just say in the United States, they sell other places, but for the sake of this example, let's just say I have a company, it's called PepsiCo. We sell cans of Pepsi, and we sell in the United States. Now, they've been around forever, right? Not forever, but you guys get the point. They've been around a long time. How do they grow their business? They're already a mature business, right? How would you grow your business if you're Pepsi? Let me see how innovative you are. Think, because I see one hand up. People are getting confident because they got everything right so far.
Do different products and different flavors and things like that. I don't know.
Different products, yes. Different flavors, maybe. And so let me explain this. That's a really good answer. It's a really good answer. So if Pepsi sells cans of Pepsi, they can get together at the end of the year. They made all this money, and remember we said they're going to invest it back in the company. Well, the way they can grow the business, because everyone in the country already buys Pepsi, so you're not going to buy more, right? So the way they grow their business is they say, hey, you know what? We can make potato chips too. And so now you're not just selling Pepsi, now you're selling potato chips. And so that's how you grow your business. You go into you create other products. The reason I said the maybe with the different flavors is that some consumer packaged goods companies call that cannibalism. You're eating away at your own brands. So if I have Pepsi and then I come up with cherry Pepsi, well, it's not like suddenly 100 million people are going to start buying cherry Pepsi that never bought Pepsi. What they're going to do is they're going to say, well, I'm not going to buy this one because I like this one better. So you cannibalize your own brand a little bit, which is a strategy. And yeah. I see a future in investing in you. That's very good analysis. So what Joannis is saying is that if you come up with like Pepsi Zero, now you might be getting totally new people. You're not cannibalizing your brand, because these people weren't buying this anyway. But now that you came up with Pepsi Zero, they're saying, oh, no, I'll get that because it has 0 calories. And so now you're growing your brand. And it doesn't even matter if that's 100% accurate. This is the way you got to think. Who's buying what? How are you growing? Right? How else do you grow? Miguel.
If you are a company like Pepsi, and they already have Pepsi Zero and other flavors and stuff, they can't really expand more. They're not gonna make any newer products because that's just not the business they're in. Then the only way they could do it is by having a larger population, because then more people will be if the population grows, whatever the new growth is, those are people that aren't buying Pepsi yet. But once they're in the population, then they will start buying Pepsi, and so you'd have to come up with more Pepsi products. There'd be a higher demand, and basically just more population growth shows that more people will buy. So we need to follow the Old Testament example of being fruitful and multiply.
Yeah, so it's not fair because Miguel's my son and he's been hearing this stuff from me for 20 years. Population growth is one of the most important things in investing. And it's so obvious. There's all sorts of technical terms we can come up with that I don't understand because I didn't major in finance. But there are some things that are just so obvious that it's worth mentioning. If you have, let's just say that you have 300, I think we have like 330 million people in the United States. Roughly, we have census every 10 years or so, and those numbers go up. And so I don't know exactly what it is now, but I think it's about 330 million people. So if you have like 330 million people, you have the potential for every one of those people to buy one bottle of Pepsi per week. A potential. I know not everybody drinks Pepsi and all that stuff, but just bear with me for a second. You have 330 million people. Everyone buys one bottle of Pepsi per week. That's 330 million bottles of Pepsi per week that you can sell. I know it's a silly example, but I just want you to get the point. Now, if the population goes to 350 million, now you have 350 million people buying Pepsi, one bottle of Pepsi per week. And so you see how the more people you have, the more you're going to sell. I like to give extreme examples so that people really understand what I'm talking about. Let's say, in the extreme example, that the country only had 1,000 people. Let's say there was 1,000 people in the United States. That's it. Like, I hope you all get the point that Pepsi would never sell 330 million bottles of Pepsi if there's only 1,000 people in the country. I hope that that's really obvious. Population globally, because not all companies are just in the United States. Many are. They're only in the U.S. and there are other companies that are global. I used to work for Unilever. They were a global company. So we sold products all over the world. So some are just the United States, some are global. But any way you look at it, population directly affects stocks. Bill Gates became one of the first billionaires because the whole world started using the Windows operating system. I hope you realize that would never have happened if the population of the planet was only 50,000 people. It wouldn't have happened. It only happened because the population of the planet is 7 billion, and a large percentage of those people had the Windows operating system, and therefore you had the first billionaire. So population, you always consider population when you're buying stocks. This is only for individual stocks. You have to think about who purchases the products. Is this something that everyone buys, or is it something that, let's say there's some product that only your state government would buy? Don't ask me what that is. I just totally made that up. And so if only your state government would buy this product, you'd say, okay, well, there's 50 states, and let's not count this state and that state because they're whatever, and so therefore I might I might sell 47 of these. Well, that's not a very lucrative business to be in if only 47, people are going to buy your product. But now let's say you come up with a new, I don't know, again, I'm making this up, a new chewing gum. Well, you might not make a whole lot of money on that one chewing gum, But if, if 1 million to 10 million people buy that chewing gum, okay, well now you're making a lot of money. So always consider people. All right, go to the next slide, Adner. So now, diversification. I remember we said that there is some really good stuff you can learn about finances in the Bible, but then we said, but there's also, the Bible just says, knowledge is good, and so we're giving a lot of just secular knowledge, just information, what an interest rate is, what a tax-deferred rate is, current laws in the United States and all that. It's all just good knowledge. Well, sometimes, you have to go back to the Bible, and the concept of diversification is in Ecclesiastes. Listen to this. And this applies to spiritual concepts and secular concepts. Ecclesiastes 11, 1 and 2. Ship your grain across the sea. After many days, you may receive a return. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. So what this is saying is, look, invest in a lot of stuff, because you never know what's gonna prosper and what's not gonna prosper. But if you invest in a lot of stuff, who knows? One of those things might take off, and you'll make some money. I know that this is true spiritually too. That concept, the concept of sowing seeds. You never know who's gonna listen to you. You just tell everybody about Jesus, and who knows? Maybe 5 out of the 10 people that you tell will come to know Jesus. So that idea of scattering and diversifying and all that stuff is both spiritual and secular. Ecclesiastes 11:6. In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand. So keep sowing. For thou knowest not whether shall prosper either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. Don't ask me why I chose the King James Version several years ago when I created this, but basically this is saying, in the morning sow your seed, and in the evening sow even more, for you don't know what's going to prosper. It might be this or it might be that. This is diversification. So in plain English that we use today, this would be, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I'm telling you this from experience, and I'll share some personal information now. When I first started investing years ago, I was told that I read books and stuff, and they said, well, you should invest in what you know. Stay away from things that you don't know. That's not necessarily good advice. Because what I knew was technology, because I majored in computer science and I was working in computer science, and that was my career, and I knew all about technology. And so I put all my eggs in one basket. I bought all these companies that were in technology, right? Everyone, for those watching online, everyone in this room is way too young to actually have lived through this. My son notices that my mouth is getting dry. Everyone knows, anyone my age knows what happened in 2000. 1999, 2000, those years. The internet was created in the 90s. A whole bunch of companies started coming out saying, oh, internet this, internet that, and internet providers, and there was just an explosion of internet companies and technology and servers and all this stuff. And so I thought I was smart, and I invested in what I knew, listening to the advice from some book. And unfortunately, they were getting way ahead of themselves, and people were paying a lot of money for all these technology companies, and then they all crashed. And I lost about 90% of my money at that point in time. Now you might say, well, what are we doing here listening to this guy? He lost 90% of his money. So I've told you that I want you to avoid the mistakes that I made. So I'm teaching you this so that you don't make the same mistake. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. Just because, Nelson, you know about cars. You're not going to put all your money in auto stocks because you know about Toyota and GM and Ford, and so you're going to put all your money in there because you know which ones are going. That's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. You never put all your eggs in one basket. You got to diversify. Go to the next slide. Okay. So now, for this example, so far the examples that I've been giving were with like $1,000 and $2,000 and not a lot of money. But for you to really understand this, I have to use bigger examples. So I'm assuming that at least nobody in this room has $100,000 invested in one company. But just for the sake of this example, let's say you had $100,000 invested in one company. If that company goes out of business, again, this is a really easy question. How much money do you lose? Yeah, you lose $100,000. And while the stock market is really historically, I would say the second best investment you can make. I'll tell you what the best one is later today. You can still lose money. I mean, companies do go bankrupt. That does happen. For this example, we're talking about diversification. We'll talk about companies going under in a second. But for this example, let's say you have that same $100,000, but you invested it in two companies, which is still a bad idea. But let's just say you invested it in two companies. Now, if one of those companies goes out of business, how much money do you lose? You lose half of it. Now, look, I don't want any of you to lose $50,000. But it's better than losing $100,000. You get the point? So now, if you have $100,000, the same $100,000 invested in 100 different companies, now if one of those companies goes out of business, how much money do you lose? Go ahead, say it. You only lose $1,000. So you see how diversification significantly reduces risk because you're invested in a lot of different things. So if any one thing goes out of business, you don't lose all your money. Now, I gave you my example. I didn't have my money invested in one stock. I had it in many stocks, but I wasn't. Well, I'm sorry. Let me test your knowledge. See if you get what I'm saying. I had all my money in technology stocks, but it wasn't one company. Was I diversified?
No.
Yeah, I see a bunch of people saying no. Why not?
Like the same genre of stocks.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So I was in the same industry. It was all just technology. And so when that whole sector of the market took a drop, while other sectors were doing okay, I lost a lot of my money. diversification is one of the most important things to remember when it comes to investing. Now, if I, again, I'm going to test you guys. If I owned Google, Amazon, IBM, and Oracle, who makes database software, and Microsoft, am I diversified? Miguel, am I diversified?
No,
Why not?
because Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Oracle, they're all tech companies,
Yeah,
so
they're
they're
all
all in the same
technology
industry.
companies. And
So
they
when
might be a little different. So this is important because you might say, yeah, but Amazon also does Amazon Prime and they do video and all that. So that's not exactly the same as Microsoft. And Microsoft does mostly software. And so that's not the same as, I forget what companies I said, IBM, because they do hardware, but it's still all technology. And so you're not well diversified. You're only diversified within that sector of the market. So you're diversified in there, but you're not really well diversified. Okay, now, let's say I own CVS Pharmacy, United Healthcare, Cigna, and Abbott Laboratories that makes pharmaceuticals and stuff. Am I well diversified?
No,
Why not?
it's still healthcare related.
Yeah, because they're all healthcare related. Even if they're not, this one is retail, this one's a manufacturer, this one's research, but still, it's all in healthcare. So you're not well diversified. Now, let's say I own Google, Kroger Supermarket, Aflac, supplemental insurance, Disney, and United Healthcare. Is that a diversified portfolio? Yeah, absolutely. That one's more diversified. I mean, you could argue it's not well diversified because it's still only 5 different stocks, but it's diversified. Your money's all over the place. If one sector takes a hit for whatever reason, entertainment. Look, entertainment took a big hit during COVID. You might say, well, how is that possible? More people were streaming online and all that stuff. Yeah, but the Disney parks were closed. I mean, I don't know if it actually closed. I don't know that for a fact, but I know they weren't packed the way they were historically. So, a lot of companies took a hit while other companies flourished because of the pandemic. So, things can happen to certain industries and things can go up and down, but if you're well diversified, you will never lose 90% of your money like I did back in 1999, 2000. Yeah.
Baby products. Everybody got pregnant. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So we got some investing advice in the next pandemic. Invest in baby products because everyone got pregnant. Those are not necessarily the views of Miguel Lluesma Incorporated. Okay. Go to the next slide. Next slide. Yeah, right there. Okay. So this is just a picture of what I just explained. The two columns is just the amount of money you have in 2 different stocks. And again, I don't mean to bore you all, but I'm just repeating, but in picture terms, what I said in the previous slide. If that company on the right goes under, you know, if they go out of business, well, you have a 42% loss. You know, because you put less money into that one. You never buy exactly the same amount of stock. So, this one went under, you have a 42% loss. Now, I know these are just extreme examples so that you can get the point, but I do want to drive this point home too. And this is why people are afraid of the stock market. There have been companies that just went out of business. And so I'm forgetting some of them now. I think if I'm wrong, it doesn't matter. The point is still valid, but I just might have the wrong companies because these things happened years ago. I think there was a company called Global Crossing. Or Enron. Enron was better. I think that one definitely went under. So they were fixing their books and cheating and telling people they were making all this money, and you know, the people that were working there were making money, but they're lying to investors saying we made this much and they really made this much, and so eventually it caught up with them and they went out of business. And so let me test you with an obvious question. If you put $1,000 into a company called Enron, and that company goes out of business, what happens to your $1,000? That's exactly right. You lost it. That money is gone. It's in your account, and you see Enron, and you'll see the value of the stock, and it'll say it's worth a penny. And you're like, a penny? You know, it was worth whatever, you know, $100 when I bought it, and now it's worth a penny. And then eventually it just goes out of business. It just disappears from your account. So that is possible, and it has happened. This doesn't really matter that much, but I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Sarbanes-Oxley. Back when those companies were doing that, they came up with these laws that said, now, you know, Miguel's a lawyer here. I can't tell you exactly what the law says, but it's something like, well, CEOs are now responsible for the information that they present to the Securities and Exchange Commission, to Wall Street. And if they are found liable, or, you know, if they're cheating, then they go to jail. Those were the Sarbanes-Oxley rules. And so since then, to my knowledge, we haven't had many companies, big companies like that, go out of business for cheating. Now, it's not to say that you can't start a company and your business is just unsuccessful and you can still go out of business, but at least not for cheating because of Sarbanes-Oxley. Yeah.
Just going to give another example of how you can go out of business, like Blockbuster, because of Netflix and Disney Plus and everything else. They just went out of business because nobody was renting movies anymore. Everything was done on streaming services.
Yeah, that's excellent. It's funny because I can't hear that. I'm assuming they could hear it on the live stream. But just in case, you can go out of business because you're just in the wrong business. And these are like investing tips. Blockbuster Video, they didn't see the writing on the wall. Like, everything was going digital. And I think like the ability to stream already existed. You know, there had to be some overlap. And they still had their brick and mortar stores renting videos. And I mean, we all know now, there are no Blockbuster Videos. They went out of business because their business was obsolete. So you have to think about that when you're investing too. Now, let's stick to this idea of diversification for a second. Go to the next slide. All right, so you see how when you're diversified, when you buy this many companies and that same company goes out of business, in this example, well, you have a 6% loss. You know, no one likes to lose money. You're always going to lose some money investing. But when you're well diversified and you have good strategies and you invest in good companies, you're going to get it wrong sometimes. Occasionally I look at my portfolio and I say, you know what? I've had this company for 5 years and it hasn't done anything. You know, sometimes you just take your losses. You say, okay, well, I lost money there. Sell, boom, move on to something else. And this is what happens when you're well diversified. When that happens, because not everything is a Global Crossing or Enron where they went out of business because they were cheating the government. Sometimes it's just bad businesses. You just make a bad decision. I do it all the time. And I just look at my portfolio and I go, well, you know what? I'm not as smart as I thought. Sell, move on to something else. But when that happens, I'll have a 6% loss instead of 50% loss or 90% loss. Okay, so diversification is really important. Now, let's say I'm testing your knowledge again. I mean, we're doing review, and I say testing, but you know, it's not like I'm going to give you a grade and we're in college or something, and you know, you have to go home and give your report card to your parents or anything. So it's good to give answers, even if you're wrong, because it gets you thinking and gets you used to all these things. Let's say I buy a mutual fund. Now, I know we talked about mutual funds last week. Some of you are like, ooh, you know, what was that again? So let's test your memory. You buy a mutual fund, it's a trick question. Are you diversified? Anybody? Why are you diversified?
Because you're not just owning one company, you're owning parts of different other companies.
So that's partially right.
Okay.
I would say you're a little diversified,
Okay.
but you're not well diversified because, remember, mutual funds have to buy what they tell you.
Ah.
And so, but it doesn't mean they're not diversified. But they have to buy, if they say we're a large cap mutual fund, they have to buy companies that are large cap companies. Those are companies with a large capitalization. I can't even explain all that, but they're big companies. And so you are somewhat diversified because there's a lot of big companies in different industries, so therefore you're diversified, right? But then you might have another mutual fund that's a healthcare mutual fund. And so you see you have different types of mutual funds. So in one case, yeah, you're a little better diversified. In another case, you're like, you know, most of these companies are in healthcare. Remember, we said by law they have to, if that's what they say they are, well, then that's what they have to invest in. And so therefore, they're a little diversified, but they're not as diversified as this one that's a large cap mutual fund, you know. So it's a trick question. So, sometimes yes, sometimes no, sometimes a little more diversified, sometimes a little less. If you buy a healthcare mutual fund, a technology mutual fund, a large cap mutual fund, a mid cap mutual fund, which just means I don't know the exact amounts, but they're like medium-sized companies. I don't know what determines what's medium-sized versus large cap, but it doesn't matter. Just big company versus, you know, medium-sized companies. I forget what I said, but and another type of mutual fund. Are you well diversified? I see a couple of heads nodding yes. Yeah, absolutely, you are. Because you have a little bit in healthcare, a little bit in technology, some large cap, some small cap. You know, you're kind of all over the place, so that's good. you're well diversified. If you buy 4 different types of mutual funds and someone else has 10 different types of mutual funds, who's better diversified? This one has 4 different types of mutual funds. This one has 10 different types of mutual funds. Who's better diversified? Who's diversified more? The 10. So I just want to drive this point home. Like, the more you have, the more different types of stocks that you own, the better diversified you are, and the less chances there are that you would lose 90% of your money. I just want to keep reminding you all of that so that it doesn't happen to you. So now, let's say you have. I'm really going to make you think now. But remember, guys, the cameras aren't even on you, so if you get this wrong, nobody cares. Only us in this room see that you got it wrong. You're starting your portfolio. You're starting from scratch. You have absolutely nothing, right? And you have $500. Can you diversify? These are all trick questions. The questions are getting harder now. Can you diversify with $500?
You can try, but it's going to be very difficult because you only have $500, and if one stock costs $200 and the other one costs $300, well, then you only have money to buy 2 stocks, and that's like 1 share of 2 stocks.
Right. So that's exactly right when it comes to stocks. If you only have $500, a good company might be $300 a share. So that, you can go buy 1 share. You have $200 left. Maybe you buy one more company, $200. And you can only afford to buy 2 different companies with $500. So, it's almost impossible to diversify. But what is a strategy that can get you a lot better diversified than just those 2 companies with that same $500? Exactly. So think about this. If now you buy a mutual fund with that $500, well, okay, you're still not well diversified, but you might own 50 different companies within that mutual fund. So you're instantly kind of diversified because you bought a mutual fund. And this is why sometimes I help a lot of people get started in investing and all that, and everyone wants to be the owner of the next Amazon and envisions themselves retiring with $1 million and all that. And look, I get it, but I'm trying to teach you real investing, and I want to be really, really practical in what you can actually do and when and all that. And that's why I keep repeating myself. You have to go back. You have to create the budget. You have to say, okay, I have this much extra because maybe I got an extra job or whatever, and now I have this much money to invest. Now I'm ready to invest. Okay, I'll talk to Miguel. How do I invest? Do I just go in and buy Amazon? And the answer is no, because you're just going to own 1 stock, and Amazon's an expensive stock. So what I would tell you to do is I'd say, let's find a good mutual fund or ETF. And you only have $400, so let's just buy that. And actually, I don't know, these rules are different, and sometimes laws change and all that stuff. But some mutual funds, you can't even buy it if you only have $400. It'll say minimum investment $1,000. I've seen that in the past. So some you can't even buy. But that's not true with ETFs. I think you can go in and buy 1 share if you want. And some mutual funds too. Anyway, all those rules, I might be wrong about that, but that's really not that important. The point is that it's really difficult to diversify with a small amount of money. But a quick way to be instantly somewhat diversified is by buying ETFs and mutual funds, because you instantly own a whole bunch of companies. Make sense? Let me see what other ways I can challenge you. Let's say someone comes to me and says, I have, and this actually happens, but I want to see what your answer would be. Again, this is just to get you thinking about stocks and the market and all that stuff, to take the whole mystery away. And let's say someone comes to me and says, I have $2,000. What should I invest in? What would you tell them? I have $2,000. Wait, I'm sorry. I have $2,000 to invest right now. What do I put it in? This is a hard question, so if you don't answer that, it's fine.
Would you tell them to, well, first you should do research and go talk to Miguel.
That's a good answer. Yeah.
And then I think that you would advise them to put it into either a mutual fund or an ETF that they're diversified, or you can break it up and buy maybe a few shares of Disney, a few shares of like, I don't know, an oil company or something, a few shares of like a health insurance thing, and whatever's left over maybe go into like a realty company or something.
Right. So you tell them, you spread it out. Say, buy a little this, buy a little that. Because I know what they're asking. They're asking if I know what insider tip on some company that's going to make them a millionaire in 2 years. And, you know, that's the way people think when they think about stock market and they hear about millionaires. You know, the person bought this and they became a millionaire. That's the way they think. Just get that out of your minds. The best way is to do research on stocks or just talk to experts. And I mean real experts, not me. Because I stress, you know, I did this one time just so that you all know, like, I don't have a degree in finance, but I have been investing for 30 years. So if you might be wondering, well, why am I listening to this guy? He's not he's not in a finance guy. He's not a Wall Street guy. Well, I have 30 years of investing. And I may have lost 90% in 1999, but I made a lot more than that in 2008 when the market crashed again. But I had learned my lesson from 1999, and now I had a lot of cash to put into the market when the market crashed. And I like doubled my money or more a couple of years later because I had money to invest when the market crashed in 2008. So, you know, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've learned a lot too. And I've been doing this for 30 years, so that should be enough to at least get you to listen. But all that being said, I'm still not the expert. When I say go to the experts, if you have a whole lot of money one day, well, let me phrase it, let me give you a better, say it's a better way. I've been doing this for a long time, and still most of my money is being managed by Fidelity, not by me. I still let the experts manage most of my money. Sure, this is like a hobby to me, and so I take, you know, chunks of my money and I say, no, I'm going to play around with this, and I'm going to do better than the experts, you know, percentage-wise, and I challenge myself and all that. But make no mistake about it, I don't trust myself to invest all my money on my own. I let the experts do it. So when I say go talk to the experts, I don't mean come talk to me. I mean talk to the real experts. But when you're starting out, I hope you guys all know that the experts are not going to listen to you if you have $500. So then that's when you have to come to me, because I'll listen to you, and I'll get you started with 1,000, 500, 2,000, and we can work things out. And you know, as time goes on, I'll tell you put your money here, put your money there, and then your money grows and all that. So I'll do that for you. But once you get, you know, a lot older, and your 401k's been growing forever, and you have large chunks of money, don't come to me. Go to the experts and let the experts invest your money. I'm just trying to think of another good. Okay, let's say someone comes to you now, and I'm looking at Miguel now because he gave the last answer, but this one's a little tougher. Now, you don't know anything about me. I come up to you, and I say, hey, give me a good stock to buy. What do you do? What advice do you give them? Or what do you say?
First, I would have to ask them, do they even have money to buy in the stock? Like, or have they been saving? And if they say yes or no, then we have to go back to week 1 of Money Matters and and go over their budget. But if they were to ask me what a good stock is, I would say, again, you have to do a little bit of research, but off of the top of your head, you just think of the big, good companies that we all use each and every day. So, like, my wife, I have to set aside a budget in my budget for Amazon because that's where we buy most of our stuff. And when we talk to other people, that's where they're buying most of their stuff. And when you look at your neighbor's front porch, there's nothing but Amazon packages. So I would assume Amazon is a really good company because they're very busy. So I would say something like Amazon, or I would say, like Disney Plus or something, or Apple, because we all have Apple phones. We all watch Disney Plus. So, like, those are good companies.
Almost got it right. So that's not bad advice. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I don't know anything about you. I come up to you and I go, hey, you're in the stock market. What do I buy?
Know you, you don't know me. I shouldn't ask you for any type of advice because how do I know what you're going to advise me on?
No. But let's say you trusted, someone told you that I knew a lot, and so you came to me and say, oh, this guy knows about investing. And you say, give me a good company to buy.
I don't know. I'm trying to think now. I'm like, I thought it was because of that because I don't know you.
Okay, all right. So now, so Miguel, your answer wasn't bad. But let me ask it a different way now. What topic are we on right now?
Diversification.
So now, if someone comes up to me and says, give me a good stock to buy, and I don't know anything about them, now what do you say?
But ask them what they already own.
Exactly.
So that way they would be able to diversify. Because if they're already investing and they already own stock in, let's say, eBay. I don't know if eBay's public or not, but just for this example.
Right.
They own eBay already, then getting Amazon wouldn't necessarily be diversification for them.
Exactly.
So I would have to get that information, and then I would recommend something in a different sector, and I would say, okay, maybe you should get Lockheed Martin.
Right. That's exactly right. So your first answer wasn't bad, but we weren't considering diversification. And that's really the point. The point is you always have to consider diversification. Don't start by getting all the best companies in the world and all that. I mean, that's fine, and you probably will make money, and that's great. But I've seen sectors crash before, and it's not fun. It's not fun when you lose a lot of your money. So you keep diversification in mind the entire time. So let me ask, again, we only have 2 topics today, so we're not going to go till 3. It's investing, and the next one is investing in yourself, right? So, but I want to spend some time, because this is, remember what I said, I want to encourage you all to not be expert investors, but to know that in today's day and age, in the world we live in, having money in the stock market is one of the best ways to maintain wealth and to have a good retirement and all that. In biblical times, it was land and sheep. And, and cattle and stuff, like, whoever had the most stuff, you made more money and you had a lot of land and you had inheritance, and they gave their their heirs money, and so that if we lived back then, this whole class might be different. But we don't live back then. We live now, and right now, the way to make money is in the stock market. And if now look, I'm not knocking anybody who, there are people that are older, and some of them, especially like teachers, police officers, things like that, they get really good pensions. And some of them are doing fine. You have an excellent pension, and you retire at a certain age, and you're getting your pension, and you're living, and you're fine. So that's okay. But if you're not in one of those professions where they have a great pension, right, and you're just working, like I hope you understand that at some point you're going to get older and you're not going to be able to work. You just, you get to be 65, 70, 75. What 75-year-old do you know is going on an interview on a new job? Eventually you retire, and so you have to have something more than just Social Security, because Social Security is just not a lot of money. And so what are your other options? You can own real estate, which we covered last week. I mean, that's okay if that's your plan, and you own a bunch of real estate and you're getting $10,000 in rent every month. Okay, well that's your plan, and you're doing a good job. If you don't own real estate and you don't have money in the stock market, in today's day and age, and you don't have a pension from one of these good jobs, you're just going to keep working. You're going to be 70, even 80, and you just have to keep working because you have to somehow make money. My plan is a little different. My son got a good job now, so he's going to take care of me when I'm older, so I don't need to worry about any of this. Let me see, what else can I say about investing? Okay, so now we talked about real estate, stock market, this, that. Since I hear this a lot, and remember what my goal here today is, to take the mystery out, and so that you're not afraid of the market and all that. I've heard people say, oh man, that's the fastest way to lose all your money. You put it in the stock market. I've heard people say, oh, you're gambling by putting your money in the market. I've heard people say, you don't make that much. You don't make as much as people say. These are actual statements that people have made to me. And no one really likes sharing personal information. But like this one person that told me that you really don't make that much money. You don't make as much as people say. It's just like an illusion, right? This person is sitting there telling me this. And I'm sitting here looking at my 401k that like quadrupled at that point in time in the last, 6-7 years. And he's telling me that you don't make a lot of money. And I'm like, oh, I wish we weren't all so private about our personal information. I would go on, show him my account and go, dude, look, you're wrong. I mean, you're wrong. Look at my 401k. It was this much and now it's this much. And you're telling me that you can't make a lot of money. And this person didn't have a 401k. I mean, I really felt bad for him because he said it with such confidence, like he was teaching me something, and I'm like, oh, okay. What I usually do in a class like this, but I can't do it now because, like I said last week, we changed the format, and now it's being recorded, and I'm up here. But usually I get on to the internet, and I ask you guys to give me any big company. And then we look at a chart, and we figure out how much money you would have made in 1 year, which sometimes is a loss. But then I say, okay, now look at the chart over a 20-year period, because this is really what we're talking about, long-term investing. I don't care how much you lose in 3 months. You can buy a stock and a war starts in Ukraine and suddenly everything goes down and now you're down 20% because of some global event that happened. That happens all the time. But if you look at almost any decent company over the last 20 years, your return is like astronomical. As long as it's like a 20-year period, not a 1-year period or a 6-month period. Just a quick question. I can't get the internet on the. Okay, go try that. We're going to do this little experiment. I hope it comes out online. Let's see. If not, we can just talk through it, and then you can research this on your own. Just go on to like quote.yahoo.com, Miguel. Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, no, maybe. Did anyone bring lunch? Oh, okay. All right, so let's do lunch for 15 minutes, because we're not going to go till 3 today. Because there's one more slide on this. We can stay for a lot of questions, because I realize this is like the most intimidating part of finances is knowing stocks. You know, the terms throw people off and they get intimidated, but I'm trying to take the mystery away and make it easy for everyone. But after this, it's just another short couple of slides and we're done. So we can probably be out of here by 1. So let's take a 15-minute break for lunch while we try to set this up. And you can just leave. The live stream just keeps going, right? Okay, so anyone watching the recording, just fast forward the next 15 minutes. Am I on? All right. So we said 15 minutes, but we had to go half an hour instead, or something like that, because everyone had some good stuff to eat. Now the question is, Miguel, can on the live stream, do they see what's on the screen or do they see me? Okay, all right. So here we go, guys. We're gonna do a little experiment. I know that's for those that are in the room. This might be a little hard to see, so you might want to move up if you can't see. Let's do a little experiment, guys, that I've done with a lot of my other classes. Give me any decent company that you've heard of recently. Just any company. Google. Okay. So Miguel, type for stock. Type in GOOG. Okay, so hopefully you can see this online. That is Google. What chart? Yeah, do the 5-year chart. Okay, so if you look at this 5-year chart, right? Miguel, hover over the peak there at the end, which is probably like 2 months ago. What date is that? July 1st, 2024. Okay, so on July 1st, Google was worth $192. So if you put, let's say you bought 10 shares at $192 roughly, right? You would have spent $1,900 on Google. Now, today, at least as of the market close on Friday, it was worth roughly how much? Like about 158, right? So that 1,900 would have turned into 1,580. So I mean, frankly, you would have been down a few $100. And if you sell, I mean, I'm not sugarcoating it. You just lost like $200 or $300. That's just the way the stock market works. And this is why sometimes you hear people say, I lost all my money, or this is the fastest way to lose all your money, or this is very risky, et cetera, et cetera. You hear all those things. And if you sell at the wrong time, yes, that could be true, right? So you can definitely lose money. But if you go back 5 years, because remember, we're talking long-term investing, not day trading. And TJ, we'll cover the day trading questions in a little bit. If you go back to 5 years, how much was Google worth 5 years ago? You see let's just do the close. It was $61.50 on the bottom left part of the screen. So it was worth $61.50. If you had bought 10 shares of Google back then, that would have been $610, roughly. $610. That same $610 would have been worth $1,580 today. So you see how you can't listen to people when they say, I lost this much money, when they're talking they lost it in a 2-month period or a 6-month period. You got to ask them, well, how much has it grown over the last 5 years? And then, if you're still losing money after 5 years, okay, well, maybe you just made the wrong pick and it's a bad company and you sell it and you take your losses and you move on. But the experiment here for now is for you guys to give me any popular company. Don't give me some unknown company that nobody knows of or anything. Any popular company. And let's look at the stock. That's Google. So you see you went from $600, assuming you bought 10 shares, from $600 to $1,580. Give me any other company. Name one. Well, Uber's too new. But you know what? Let's do Uber anyway. I think it's just, I think the symbol is just UBER, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Okay, so that's Uber. Go to chart. And go to the 5-year chart. Okay, so now look at Uber over 5 years. Hover over the beginning there, 20. So the close was $32.60. So you buy 10 shares, that's $320. Today it would have been worth $720. Now, anyone watching the tape might think this is staged, right? But everyone in this room knows it's not staged because I didn't talk to you guys. So we just picked 2 random companies. Give me any other company. Give me another one. Anybody? Ulta Beauty? Yeah, bring up ULTA, Miguel. It's sad that I know some of these symbols by heart. Okay, so that's Ulta Beauty, right? So go to the chart. And click 5-year. Okay, and then hover over back then. So Ulta was $228 roughly. So 10 shares would have been $2,280, which today would have been worth $3,780. Give me another company, just any company. Oh, okay, we have Marshalls and AutoZone. So go to AutoZone is AZO, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, go down to the 5-year chart. Okay, hover over 5 years ago. AutoZone was $1,159. So if you bought the same, we're using 10 shares as an example, you would have put $11,590 into AutoZone. I mean, I know we don't all have that much money to put in one stock, but let's just say we did. You put $11,100 into the stock. Today, it would have been worth $31,000. $31,000. And anyone who owns AutoZone, you can thank Nelson for that. Okay? What did you say, Marshalls? Okay, so Marshalls is not an individual stock. I think they're part of TJ Maxx. Yeah, so find TJX, Miguel. Enter TJX as a symbol. Yeah, right there. yeah, we can thank all the ladies for this one. Go to 5 years. Okay, go to the beginning. And you see the close is $54. So you bought 10 shares, you would have put $540 in 5 years ago. Today it would be worth $1,190. I hope you're all seeing the point. Give me any other company. And I'm not saying that there aren't companies out there that have gone down, but any popular company that you guys know of. Well, Apple's, yeah, that's one of the best. Let's do it anyway. Go to Apple. APPL. AAPL, right. Yeah, and then go down to the 5 years. Hover over. So that was 54. So 10 shares would have been $540. But still, they adjust these charts for the splits. So $540 would have been now would be $2,220. $540 in just 5 years, you're up to $2,220. Now, want to do a couple more or like? Just find out. They might not be public. Find out what is it. What is it called? Not doing that well. But let's look it up. Disney is DIS, right? So look at Disney. Duncan is private now. All right. So look at Disney. So $1,320 would have turned into $900, right? So, but I'm glad we brought this one up. So, so here's a trick question. Was Disney a good investment? Yes. Somebody said yes. Why? Why? And qualify your answer. Yeah. Where's the microphone?
I said yes, it's still a good company to buy because one, Disney gives dividends.
Okay, so that's a good point. Let me just explain that for a second. So even though here you went from $1,300, I think it was, to $900, you lost, about $400 in value, right? But what Miguel is saying is you did get dividends, at least part of that time. They actually stopped paying a dividend, but you got some dividends. But I guarantee you didn't get $400 in dividends. So is it a good buy? Was it a good buy?
I would say it's still a good buy because, one, you still own the stock. So even though the value has gone down, you still have ownership. And I don't think anyone, unless something drastic happens, like the CEO, does something crazy illegal, or Disney starts doing something like wild, they're not going out of business anytime soon, and they will bounce back.
Okay, so that's a good answer. Now, it's not to say that Disney can't have horrible leadership and maybe they go south and maybe they do go out of business. But let's test Miguel's theory. So instead of, you got to run back up there. Instead of going back 5 years, bring up the all-time chart on Disney. Okay, so now look at the all-time chart, and forget about 1960s. Go back to like 2005, right? So in 2005, if you can see the close, it was at $28 a share. 10 shares would have been $280. You fast forward to today, that $280 is $900. So you see how even though the last 5 years have been really tough for Disney, part of that is because of the pandemic and their parks closing and all that stuff. But if you owned it for like 15 years, you're still up a lot. It's just that, and I'm glad we picked a company that was struggling the last 5 years, because I get a chance to show you that, yeah, it's struggling the last 5 years, but if you're long-term investors and you buy good companies, you're still going to make money. And this chart shows how much, if you go back to like 1985, now I know a lot of you are young and some of you didn't even exist in 1985, but I started my career in 1985. Like I had money in 1985. I mean, I didn't have a lot, but I could have bought some shares of Disney. How much was Disney worth? Look, $1.60. So that means that I could have bought $100 of Disney back then, and it would have cost me $160. So with $160 back then in 1985, I could have owned Disney, and it would have been 100 shares. Now that same 100 shares today would have been $9,000. You see what happens over time? Like there are always ups and downs and companies struggle and all that, but over a 30-year period, it's very rare that a good company is going to lose money. Go give me any other stock now that we have the all-time charts on here. I just want to drill this point home. Pick any other stock. Wendy's is another one. We can do Wendy's if I don't know Wendy's symbol. Type in Wendy's, Miguel. If you just type out the word, it usually it's just WEN. So click on Wendy's. And right now it's $17 a share. Go down. Let's look at the all-time chart. It's loading? Okay. Now try the 5-year chart then. Maybe it'll go faster. Okay, which one is that? Go down. Okay, so look at that 5-year chart. You can tell when COVID happened in 2020, Wendy's plummeted, right? What happens? Here's a quick test. What happened to your money if you panicked in 2020 and sold Wendy's? Go to the bottom there. What price was it? It was at $15 a share, roughly. What would have happened had you sold there? We have one answer. You would have made money because you sold it. Well, maybe, because you can't answer that question because it depends on when you bought it. I mean, if you bought it a few months earlier, you lost, a lot of your money. I mean, and I'm not sugarcoating it. You lost your money if you sold it and you panicked in 2020. But let's say you bought it at the peak there and you just waited just 1 year. Now you're right back to where you were because you didn't panic and you said, well, Wendy's is still a good company. They're not going out of business. They have all the money in the world. And so they're still a good company. I'm still going to own it. Let's see if you could do the all-time chart now, Miguel. See if it'll work. Okay, so now go back to 1985 again. And again, I was alive and well in 1985. Had I bought 100 shares of Wendy's, it would have cost me $288. For anyone listening who is my age, they know that's not actually true because you had to pay a lot of money for trades back then. But in today's world, trades are free. Like, they don't charge you for trading. So it would only cost you $288 if that's the price of the stock. Now, on a $288 investment, go up a little bit so I can see the price. What is it? Well, it shows it up top. If you scroll up a little bit. No. Just scroll. Right. Yeah, 17. So that $288 investment would be $1,700 now. So now, let's do something a little different because you might say, yeah, but you know what, Miguel? You're just picking all these good companies that we all know. People don't always, you don't always pick good companies. You're not showing us all the bad companies, right? So the first thing I'll say is, well, you shouldn't be buying bad companies. You know, I mean, if there's some company and you look at their financials and they're not making any money, they're not paying a dividend, you don't know what they do, you don't understand their business, well, then don't buy it. So that's the first point. But here's the other point, though. Does everyone know what the S&P 500 means and what the Dow means? Okay, so we got one yes. I think we have a few maybes. Okay, so the Dow, and I know I'm repeating myself a lot. I may not explain this exactly the way it works, but this is more or less what that means. There's this organization called the Dow Jones, right? And they say, we don't want to measure every single stock in the world. That's too much work. And I'm just saying this in plain English. So what they say is, well, if we just come up with, and I think the number is 30, is it 30 or 50? I don't remember. If we just come up with like the 30 biggest companies, it's 30? Okay. If we come up with like the 30 biggest companies, that will be an indication of how the overall market is doing. Because let's say one of these companies is Walmart, right? So if Walmart is doing well, that means that they are employing thousands of people. If those thousands of people are employed by Walmart, well, they have jobs and they're making money, and so they're buying all sorts of products, and they're buying cars, and they're taking vacations, and so like the airlines do well, gas stations do well, grocery companies do well, because all these people are employed. And when you go to Walmart, when you go to work, well, you're spending gas and your public transportation. And so like when these big companies do well, that is an indication that the economy is doing well. It's being stimulated. Just imagine if suddenly, from one day to the next, every single Walmart employee on the planet did not have a job anymore. Think about the amount of gas that wouldn't be spent of people driving there. Think about the amount of groceries that wouldn't be bought because people don't have any money now. I mean, think about the repercussions of something like that happening. And so the Dow says, we're just going to take the 30 biggest companies, and that's going to be an indication of how well the economy is doing. So that's what the Dow Jones Industrial Average is. And so when the Dow does well, you know times are good. The Dow, in all honesty, the Dow crashes sometimes. And that's what they call a stock market crash. The Dow is way up here at 10,000 and goes down to 5,000, and everybody's panicking because you lost 50% of your value in all these big companies. And you know, I'll use a term we used last week. It's the zombie apocalypse, because the whole world is in a depression now, right? So this is the 5-year chart for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. If you notice, again, 2020 was the beginning of the pandemic. And you notice what happened at the beginning of the pandemic. The Dow, scroll over to the Dow back then, to the beginning of this chart. So it was at roughly 27,000, right? So the Dow was at 27,000. We're doing well. It's like, yeah, 27,000, right? It's all-time high. Now go to 2020 at the bottom point, a little more, yeah, right there, and the Dow is down to close at 19,000. So, you know, not only were we going through a pandemic, but the whole world started panicking. People really were not going to work, were not spending money, were not driving. I mean, it was a really eerie time, right? For anyone who went across the Tappan Zee Bridge during that time, and there were like 6 cars on the whole bridge. I mean, you know, those are scary times. Well, that's what happens when you don't have a lot of people stimulating the economy. Everything drops. But if you panicked in 2020, right, you lost. I mean, again, I'm just being honest. You lost 1/3 of your money. I mean, most of your money is gone if you just sold everything, right? But how long did it take for it to come back? Go back, scroll over a little bit more to the right, a little bit more, right around there. So by the end of the year, it was already back to normal. It just goes to show you the resilience of the stock market, that even during a pandemic, something of global proportion, the way we all saw it in 2020, the stock market still came back in just 1 year. It didn't even take that long. Now to further this point, yeah, there have been some rough times, right? But look at now. Go now, and it's 41,000. So it went from 20-something thousand to 41,000. So over a 5-year period, even with a pandemic, the Dow still went from 29 to 41. Now, we really remember that what I'm trying to do here is take away the fear of getting into the market and take away the mystery and like I want you to have money invested in the market somehow, right? So go to the all-time chart. Okay, so that's the all-time chart of the Dow. Now you could see, oh no, actually that's not the all-time chart. That only goes back to 1995. Yeah, scroll to the left. Let's see some of it. Oh, it doesn't. It's not working. Yeah. Go to chart. And then do all. And it's loading. While this loads, let me just say what I'm trying to show you here is that over a long period of time, I'm not saying that the market can't crash and we can't have another global pandemic or something like that, but what I am saying is that historically speaking, over a long period of time, nothing has outperformed the stock market. It just goes up and up and up as long as you look at like 10 and 15 and 20 year periods, not 2 and 3 year periods. All right, doesn't seem to be loading. So that one, is that still the 1995? Okay, all right, so we don't have the all-time chart, but just hover over, is that 19? Okay, so that's going back to 1992. In 1992, the Dow closed at 3,267. So, I mean, $3,000, and now it's 40, not dollars, that's the value of the Dow. It was 3,000 something to 41,000 now from 1992. Now, again, I want you guys to think about this. In 1992, I was in the market. So the money that I had invested in the Dow in 1992 has grown that much in, 92, 2000, in 32 years? In 32 years, that's how much it's grown. And so I want you guys to think about this because don't talk to me about becoming a millionaire next year. Most of you are young, and I know that Nelson and Joanna, you say that, well, you're older than some of the other folks here. You're still young too. You're in your 40s. You still got 20 years before you even think about retiring. And look at any 20-year period, you're still making money in the market. The only time I give different advice and tell people, okay, we have to think about things a little differently now, is when they're my age and they're telling me, I want to start investing. And then I'm like, okay, well, that's a different story now because, frankly, when you're my age, you might not have 30 years for your money to grow because you're already 60-something, you know what I mean? But for most of you, you're young. If you're anything under 50, you still have time to invest in the market and grow your money. Obviously, for younger folks, you have a lot more time. I mean, God willing, because tomorrow's not promised to anyone, but for younger folks, you have years and years and years. That the best thing you have on your side is time. You hear that, Divine? The best thing you have on your side is time. You invest when you're young, and that's what could happen to your money. Look at that chart. That can't happen when you're 60. That can only happen when you get started at, I forget how old you are, 19 or something like that. You get started now, and you will have a lot of growth, okay? So this all makes sense? When you hear S&P 500 and S&P 400 and other things, those are just other ways of measuring the market. Instead of 30 companies, it might be 500 companies, and but they're all just measures of the market. And you look at any one of those charts, and they all go up over a 30-year period, right? You want to have money in the stock market. However you do that, whether it's through 401k, hopefully you will have experts managing it, not doing it yourself. But if you're like me and you like playing around with your own stocks and guessing which ones, and trying your hand at investing, you can do that too, but do it with a small portion of your money. Let the experts manage most of your money. Make sense? Can you get back to the slides, Miguel? And I think we're on slide 60 of 61. Is that it? Yeah. Okay, so here are just some final thoughts on investing. Now, this is investing in individual stocks. One, don't get greedy investing in speculative stocks. Invest in good, reputable companies with good products and hold on to them for the long run. Again, this is if you want to try your hand at individual stocks. Don't get greedy. More often than not, when someone has given me a stock tip, even claiming sometimes that they had insider information. Now, I'm not admitting to anything illegal or anything like that, but sometimes people just talk and they go, "Oh, you hear what this company's going to do? Said they're going to do this, blah 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 blah, and so you should invest in this." The 2 or 3 times that I've listened, every single time I've lost money. So, look, don't listen to people. Don't listen to anyone who tells you this company's going to do this, this company's going to do that. What I do now when someone says, "You know what's a really good company now? Company XYZ." The first thing I do is I go to some of those charts that I was showing you, to Yahoo Finance, and I look at their revenue. How much are they making money? I know we didn't cover a lot of this stuff, but earnings per share means how much money are you making on every share that exists for that company. And the earnings per share could be, $1.20 for every share that's out there. Or $5 for every share that's out there. Or if it's a really good company, $7.90 for every share that's out there. Sometimes people will tell you, buy this company, oh, this thing's going to be great. The first thing I do is I look at earnings per share and I see -$4. Just quickly, I know we didn't cover a lot of financial terms and financial statements and all that. Does anybody know if a company has -$2 per share? Can anyone explain what that means? Like, how could you have negative earnings?
Money?
Yeah, well, you say just lost money. Not just lost money, they're losing money. Like, in other words, the whole year, the year's over, you lost money. So that means, let's say you're a new company, you go public, like we said a little while ago, and you raise all this money from investors, and you raise $100 million, and you're using that to grow your business, and at the end of the year, the amount of money that you spent is higher than the amount of money that you made. Well, that means you have negative earnings. You're not making any money. Now, that's not always the worst thing in the world, because frankly, when you're first starting out, the first few years of a company, they might have negative earnings, because they're saying, well, we haven't grown our company yet. I mean, we're just getting started, and in about 10 years, we're gonna be making millions. But right now, we're struggling. We're opening up new manufacturing facilities, new warehouses, we're hiring new people, and so you have negative earnings. But if you have a company that's been around a long time, and they still have negative earnings, at some point you gotta say, why are they not making money? You know, so the first thing I look at when someone gives me some stock tip is I go, oh, okay, well, let's see, are they making any money? Or is this a speculative stock? You're guessing that they're going to start making money. The second point, except for investing in yourself, which we're going to cover next, it's the last slide. Over the last 100 years, no investment has outperformed the overall performance of the stock market, not even real estate. I mean, real estate is great. I'm not knocking it. There's a lot of people that are smarter than I am, and they make more money in real estate than I make in stocks and all that. But I'm just giving you facts. Over the long run, a long period of time, the stock market has outperformed real estate. It's not that real estate isn't good. And I mean, look, I bought a house in 1997, and the house was worth a whole lot more 20 years later. So I know real estate goes up. But it doesn't go up as much as the stock market did in that same period. The stock market went up way more than the value of my house in that period of time. Point number 3. At first, you only invest what you can afford to lose. This is really important. This is another reason to getting back to the tough question that I asked Miguel a little while ago, like if someone comes up to you and says, oh, what stock should I invest in? Well, I don't know. I don't know your situation. I mean, do you need your money? Are you buying a house next year because you have 3 kids and you live in a small place and so you want to buy a house? Well, you might not want to buy stocks. You might want to just keep your money on the side and use it to buy your house. Is your car 17 years old and on its way out? You might want to buy another car next year, so you'll need money to buy that car. So, you don't want to invest money that you're going to need soon. And here's a big one. Your child is going to college next year. They're 15 years old. They're going to be a senior next year. They're going to be 16, and they're going into college next year. But you make too much money to get financial aid. Well, you're going to be paying a lot of money for college in another 2 years, so you might not want to, invest for the long term. You might want to say, excuse me, my mouth is dry again. You might want to say, let me just keep some money on the side in really safe investments, in a CD or something, or just a regular savings account, because I'm going to be using that money for my child's education. This is what this statement means. Only invest what you can afford to lose. The purpose isn't to lose it, and that's not the point here. The point isn't that you're going to lose the money. The point is that we're talking long-term investing, and so when I say only invest what you can afford to lose, that means like in the short term, you don't need the money right now. You have $1,000. You have money set aside for everything else, your mortgage, your taxes, your school, weddings, or whatever. But you have an extra $1,000. Okay, well then you say, all right, this is money that I can leave there until I'm 60, and that's what I'm going to invest. So you only invest what you can afford to lose. The percentage of your portfolio invested in stocks should be inversely related to your age. So that simply means that when you're really young, you should put a lot of money in stocks. Frankly, when you're 70, you might want to move some money out of stocks. You know, as time goes on, I should say, you might want to move some money out of stocks and put them in safer things. Buy an annuity. I know we didn't cover annuities, but most of you don't have to worry about that because you're not that old anyway. You put it in an annuity. You buy bonds, CDs, fixed income things. You put it in stuff that's a lot safer. That's stuff that doesn't grow a lot, but it's safe. And look, frankly, if you're 65 years old, God willing, if everything goes as the way things naturally go, you're not going to live as long as someone who's 20. So, at that point, you don't care so much about making big, huge gains in the long run. You're just, no, look, I have enough money to live on for the rest of my life. I just want to keep it. So your strategy changes a little bit when you get a lot older. But this being said, I focused a little bit on the older folks in that little, speech I gave you the last 5 minutes. But think about what this means for the younger folks. You want to have money in stocks because your money grows over time. And now, this is going to take, I want you to think about this. Just imagine, you were just telling me about your friend who lost a lot of money in the market, right? Just imagine you're 65 years old. You have, I'm just making up these numbers. You have $1 million. You're 65. And you have all your money in the market. And the market crashes. And you lose 40% of your money. Now, you have $1 million. You just lost 40%. How much do you have now? $600,000, right? So you lost $400,000 because you had $1 million and it went down 40%, and so you lost $400,000. That's the scenario of a market crash when you're 65. Now, when you're 22, and I'm exaggerating this point so that you can get the point. When you're 22, the first thing is, how much money do you typically have when you're 22? Give me some answers. If you're lucky and you had a summer job and you saved a lot, you might have $5,000. I mean, when you're 22, you just don't have a lot of money because you're just starting your career or whatever. And I know there are people out there that maybe they inherited money or they had a sweet 16 and made $5,000, or they, if you're Jewish and you got a bat mitzvah and you got $10,000 from that, or other events like that. So it's possible for you to have more. But the average 22-year-old doesn't have any money. And so if you lose 40% of your money, but you only had $1,000, all right, so now you're losing $400. Now look, I wouldn't want to lose $400 if I had 1,000, but that's not going to make you or break you. I mean, you're still 22 years old, you have the rest of your life to work, and you're going to make that money back. And it's not like, I've never met an old person that said, you know what, I can't retire now because of that $400 that I lost when I was 22 years old. You follow what I'm saying? Like, it's just, so the point is that when you're 22, that's the time that you want to put all your money in the market because you don't care if you lose it. You don't have that much anyway. So you want to be really aggressive, because that money over time is definitely going to come back. You may have lost $400, but that $400 is going to come back in a couple of years, and you have time for it to come back because you're not retired yet. You're still working. And remember, you're only investing what you can afford to lose. So you didn't need that money anyway. So that money is definitely going to be worth, $1,000 again by the time you're 25, definitely. The point is, when you're young, you're as aggressive as possible. And then when you're older, then you get less aggressive. Now, look, I'm not going to tell you you don't have anything in stocks, because everyone has a different risk level. And I mean, let's say you have $10 million. Well, you only need a couple of million to live the rest of your life when you're, the older you get, right? So if you want to take the other 8 million and keep investing it and keep growing it and leave it to your heirs and all, I mean, that's fine. So I'm not saying that you always sell everything once you reach 65. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the older you get, the more you got to think about, okay, what do I want to move into safe investments? Whereas when you're younger, you want to be as aggressive as possible. Make sense? The last point on here, and I think we covered this a lot, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, is diversify, diversify, diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't go out there, open up an account, you only have $1,000, and you think you're smart because you're buying Amazon. What's Amazon? I forget their price. But anyway, because, yeah, sure, Amazon might make you a lot of money, but you're not diversified. And one bit of bad news or something, and you have all your eggs in one basket. Now, I'm just letting you all know, like, I own a little Amazon, so it is a good buy, and I would advise you to buy Amazon. But I'd advise you to be well diversified first before you go and buy Amazon. Okay. Last slide. I think it's the last slide. Yeah, 61 or 61. Okay, so 1 Kings 11:28. Now, Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. So when Solomon noticed that the young man was industrious, he put him in charge of the whole labor force of the house of Joseph. Proverbs 22:29. Do you see a man skilled in his work? He will be stationed in the presence of kings. He will not stand before obscure men. Those are just two of the verses in the Bible that just state the obvious, which is when you have skill, knowledge, resources, however you look at it, you're making yourself more valuable. This first one now Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. So when Solomon noticed that the young man was industrious, he put him in charge of the whole labor force. Because he saw his talent, he had an opportunity. He says, hey, I want this guy. And he puts him in charge of the whole labor force. So you see how his worth was more valuable than any money he might have had at that time. Because at that time, money did exist. Not everything was sheep and, like I said before, sheep, goats, and land. There was money. At that time, if he had a lot of money, okay, you have a lot of money. That's not as valuable as suddenly working for the king. That's a lot more valuable. Now you got a high position and you're making even more money and you have stability and so investing in yourself is a lot more valuable than any stock market investment I can give you. It's a lot more valuable. Do you see a man skilled in his work? He will be stationed in the presence of kings. So as that relates to nowadays, this would be, I am an employer, I'm going to hire people with skills. I mean, I know this is obvious, but sometimes, you got to hear things over and over again for it to really sink in. You can't be 16, 17 years old, not have a trade, not learn anything from your dad or your mom, not go to school, not have a hobby, not do anything, and suddenly come out and start making a lot of money. That just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. In some cases, you have in the old days when, fathers went to work and mothers, took care of the kids and all that, because I'm a lot older than you guys, sometimes you did what your father did. And so if your dad was a plumber, well, you went into the plumbing business, and so you learned that from your dad. Nowadays this applies to men and women, because, I was really talking about 60 years ago. So investing in yourself is way more lucrative than any investment I can give you. Now, we showed some pretty impressive charts up there, right? I forget what the best one was, but which one did we go back to, like 1995, and it grew like 400% or 4,000% or something? Well, okay, it doesn't matter. Let's say take Amazon. Amazon is about the best performing stock in the last 20 years. If you put $1,000 into Amazon like 20 years ago, I know I don't have the chart up and I'm not doing the math, but that $1,000 might have been about $100,000 now, right? I mean, show of hands, is that a good investment? Yeah, it's a good investment. You put $1,000 in, you get $100,000 out. Sure, you had to wait, 30 years, but you made $99,000 on your investment. But look at the difference between that and investing in yourself. You go to school, you become a doctor, and you come out. And let's say, now, look, I know there's a lot of different doctors and all that, but I know that I paid my anesthesiologist like $700 one time, and he just spent a half an hour with me in one day. So he probably had several patients that day. I mean, you do the math. The guy made several $1,000s in one day. Even if he only had 2 patients, he made $1,400 in one day. Like, you do the math. How many work days are there in a year? Somebody get a calculator out and do. How much was it? Okay, so I know this isn't an actual example, and we'd have to actually talk to them and see how many patients and all that stuff, but that's like $350,000 a year. So now I want you to think about this. In one of the best investments that I gave you, which was Amazon, you didn't have a lot of money, so you only put the $1,000 that you had back in 1995, and sure, it's a great investment. You made $100,000 over the 30 years on a $1,000 investment. You made $100,000. This anesthesiologist is making $300,000 in 1 year, and another $300,000 the following year, and another $300,000 the following year. You see how there's no comparison between the best investment you can make and investing in yourself. I'm giving you extreme examples because we don't all have the intellect to become a medical doctor. I mean, frankly, we don't. I don't. And maybe you guys do. That doesn't go for you, Divine. You're still young. You can be a doctor. The rest of us, it's probably unlikely that we're going to be doctors. But even with my last statement, that's not entirely true. Because I'm saying, well, once you get older, you can't go back to school and all that stuff. Everyone here knows that Miguel went back to school, and now he's a lawyer. And he was already older. He wasn't 21 when he went to law school. So this is just a little, I'm giving you a little encouragement. Even for anybody at any age, you could always go back to school. I know a dear friend, I didn't get their permission to say their name or anything, but she raised her children, went back to school, like in her 40s, I think. Got a degree, came out, and got a really good job in her 40s. It's never too late to invest in yourself. I've seen other people who start businesses at an older age, and that's investing in yourself. You're saying, look, I learned this trade for a long time. I'm going to do this. I'm going to borrow some money from my uncle, from my dad, from this, go to the bank, you get together, you work really hard, and next thing you know, you have a business. So you're investing in yourself. Investing in yourself is way more valuable than any investment. Remember that. When you invest in yourself, it's like you're giving yourself a huge salary. When I say huge, it's relative. You're giving yourself a big salary. Let's say you make $100,000 a year. Well, that's $100,000 this year, $100,000 next year, $100,000 next year, $100,000 the following year. You see how that becomes $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. That is a lot more valuable than buying Amazon. You follow what I'm saying? So while the stock market is the best investment you can make in a certain way, it doesn't compare to coming out, getting a good job, and being worth more because you learned some skill or went and got some degree or something. Okay, so invest in yourself. The last thing, that's it. That's the last slide, and we're done. But I just want to remind you, because we went through some of the more spiritual stuff last week. While investing in yourself is the best investment you can make, I mean, that's absolutely true. Still, none of this matters at all if you're not trusting in God. Like, it really doesn't. Because you could be a multi-billionaire, and in the end, even in Ecclesiastes, it talks about how everything is what's the term they use? What's the term they use in Ecclesiastes, Miguel? Meaningless. Vanity, yeah. In some versions they say vanity. Everything is vanity. Like, it's uselessness. It makes no sense. And one of the things is, I see one man who doesn't work, has nothing, and at the end of his life, he dies. And another man works really hard, has a whole lot of stuff, makes a lot of money, has a whole lot, and then he dies too. And the lesson that I learned from that in Ecclesiastes is, look, some of the stuff we do in this life, yeah, it matters a little bit. I mean, the guy who had a lot of money, well, he lived comfortably, and I'm sure he had more fun and all that stuff. But in the end, they both died. And so in the end, there's only one thing that really matters, which is your relationship with God is what really matters. Not all this stuff about money. So everything that we've learned, it's really, remember what we said last week, it's so that you can serve God better and help people out along the way. But at the same time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you having a little fun too. Solomon, and this is it, I'm going to close with this. Solomon, God went to Solomon and said, ask me for anything. And because his heart at that time, now I know Solomon did a lot of crazy things, but at that point in time, his heart was absolutely in the right place. He said, I just want wisdom to lead your people. And because his heart was in the right place, God said, you know what? I'm going to give you that wisdom. But at the same time, I'm going to give you the riches and fame and glory too. So that was an example of God actually giving riches and glory and fame and all that stuff. So like, I'm not saying that any of this is wrong. If you want to buy a nice car, buy a nice house, those are normal human things that we do here in this part of the world. So there's nothing wrong with that. But your heart has to be in the right place. You gotta say, look, all this stuff is good. Miguel gave me a lot of good advice, and I'm going to follow a lot of it. But none of that means anything if you're not serving God. it really doesn't mean anything. And that's it. Any questions on anything we covered last week or this week? Yeah.
I guess I have like maybe like a testimonial to just further drive the point home of how important it is to invest and also how beneficial it is. I was working a long time ago at a job when I was like 22, I think. So this is like 10 years ago. And I was having an argument with one of my friends about what would be better to put our paycheck towards, whether it be investing in the stock market or buying a pair of Jordans and then selling them. So I worked at Finish Line, and we would get shoes at a discounted price. And a pair of Jordans at the time cost like $250. We would get them for like $200. So it was like a $50, drop off of the price. And people would buy the shoes and then sell them. So I was trying to tell my friend that we should just invest that $200 in a company and just buy like 5 shares of it. And he was like, no, we should buy the sneakers and then go sell it because we'll make more money right now. And I was like, yeah, but if you think about it, you're going to sell that sneaker and you're going to make $100 off of it. So you sell it for $300, you make $100. But that's it. The sneaker's gone. It's sold. You can't make any more money off of that sneaker. It's done. I took my $200 and bought a stock. And I did the math last week because I was thinking about it. Just in dividends alone, I've already made over $100 on that stock, or close to it. And I still own the stock, and I'm still getting more dividends on it, and the stock has increased in value. This pair of sneakers that my friend sold back then, he has not made any more money on that pair of sneakers. So like just to drive home the point that like nothing outpaces the stock market except investing in yourself. That was one example that I thought of. And then the investing in yourself thing is another testimony for me. I went back to school, got a degree. Now I have, a really good job. And that all happened like later in life. But because I invested in myself, it sets me and my family up. We're able to do more now going forward. And to tie in the last point about it's all meaningless if you don't do it for God, like we're able to do a lot more now, like within the church. And I'm not even just talking about tithing because, I've invested in myself and Steph has invested in herself and we have, really good jobs. We're also more free to do things like give more of our time and to be able to actually invest a little bit more in the church. So those are like 2 testimonies that I have based off of what I've been learning from you for, obviously you're my father. I've been learning from you since I was like, 5 years old. But I've been able to apply it and it's been very beneficial. And then I have one last testimony just about tithing. Again, I know last week we talked about, it's not, we're not talking about prosperity gospel. And if you give money, you're going to sow your seed and make $50,000. But I remember the first time I ever started working was around like 17, 18, 19. I got a job and I was tithing, but I was also going to school for the first time. And then I did get in trouble. And so part of my punishment was that Pops wasn't going to pay for school that semester. I don't know if he remembers this. So I had to apply for not a scholarship. I had to apply for financial aid. And I also applied for like a grant, but there was no guarantee that you were going to get accepted. But around that time, I had started tithing. And I started giving money to the church. That was money that I could have just saved up and put towards the semester. But I said, no, Pops has taught me since a young age that I should tithe my money. And I tithed. And within 2 weeks, I got accepted for that grant. And I got the amount of money that I needed to pay for the rest of the semester. And I believe wholeheartedly that that's because I trusted in God. I tithed the money that I made, and he took care of the rest. And again, the important thing is that it wasn't even my money to begin with in the first place because it all belongs to God. But just taking that step of faith trusting in what God can do with the money that He's allowing you to have anyway. Like it goes a long way, and things will happen where like God takes care of you. So those are my 3 testimonies about the Money Matters class and how it's been applied to my life.
You know, we have a little applause here. If for those of you that are a little savvy and caught on to one of those examples, you might have said, oh, but you know, your friend with the sneaker example, well, yeah, but he made quick money, and then he bought another pair and made more money, and then he bought another pair and made more money. But I'm not sure you caught on to what Miguel was saying. On the same money that he spent on that first pair of sneakers, Miguel is still making money. The second pair of sneakers, you can't start saying, well, he made another 50 and another 50 and another 50. The way you have to look at that is Miguel would have taken the money that he invested in that second sneaker and put that in the market, and the money took from the third sneaker and put that in the market, and so on and so forth. And so now, 10 years later, you're still making a profit on all that money versus just making one quick profit and then it's over on that amount of money. I don't know if you all picked up on that, but you get. And by the way, I was gonna say what you should have done was invested in Nike, because then now you're making money every time your friend sells a sneaker. Part of that money is going to you. Any other questions, or do we wrap up here for the live stream? We can just say. Now everybody's shy,
You have to ask, did everybody do their budgets?
Oh yeah, that's right.
They had homework.
Did everybody work on their budgets? All right, so that's it for the live stream. But I'm just going to tell everyone on the live stream what's going to happen is we're going to shut everything off, shut the mic down, and then I'm going to get questioned because no one likes to talk.
That means they just have to come back next year when we do Money Matters again, in person.
All right, that's it. Thank you all very much.